Good afternoon. Okay, so it's time to share. We really live hospitality. It's in our DNA. This is actually an image of not a model. It's our CFO. So that's how much we love this industry. We're the world's largest restaurant design company, and the reason of me being here today is that we have the luxury of being all over the world, opening thousands of restaurants and learning a little bit of where the industry is moving, both in terms of competition, customer expectations, technology, and design rollout. So I'll try to share as much as possible in the time we have, and hopefully with the intention of you being able to take some of these nuggets back to your operations, to your brands. So we're trusted by the world's leading brands. So it's all from QSR to fast casual, all the way to us now designing the future of F&B in the line or the Neon project. So we're all over the place, and that really gives us sort of a sense of where this industry is going. I see some of our clients in the audience, that's always good. But not only we create brands and reposition brands, we're also operators. We run our own Live It labs. Some of you might have heard me talk about them before, where we test anything and everything in terms of operational efficiency or technology into our own environments. We pack our restaurants with sensors and really measure and can then share this information with our clients. So I'm going to start with a journey of where the world is today, right? So, if we look at numbers from this year, they're updated. You can see the global change in sales really varies a lot. During the pandemic, we actually saw that some of the QSR brands performed really well that had drive-through in the US. Hence, we're seeing less growth in the US, but incredible growth both in Asia Pacific and Latin America. So there's no such thing as coffee for all. That's something that I want to convey. There's not a thing that this is the solution for this market, for this brand. Every brand, every market needs different solutions. Our industry is dominated and has been traditionally dominated by a few giants, right? If you see the top 10 brands in the world do 61% of global sales, right? All these brands have something in common. They're all American. And this has been the case for quite a few years, but we're seeing some change happening. First of all, we're seeing a change in the growth. As you can see, most of their growth is actually outside of the US, right? So that's something interesting. The US market is becoming saturated, competition is fierce, and brands are moving outside of that market. What I think is very interesting, if you look at the most net location openings globally, you can go from Popeyes with almost 400 down there all the way up to Domino's and Starbucks. But what is really interesting is brands like Luckin and Mixue. How many of you are familiar with Mixue? Raise of hands. Not a single hand. So the fastest growing brand in the world, opening one restaurant every 30 minutes this year, you've never heard of it. So that's one thing that I wanted to share. There's a lot of players out there that we're not familiar with because they're not US brands. If you compare the growth of a brand like Luckin Coffee in a market like China and can see that it's outperforming Starbucks significantly, despite the fact of Starbucks having 6,000 stores, it's incredible. So the potential of these brands are very, very interesting going forward. We all speak about, different categories, and I often get the question, what's next, what's coming? I would really encourage you to look at the Asian brands. Nene Chicken, 1,600 units. Most of you have never heard of it. So these are South Korean brands that are really growing out. They're upscale, although they compete in the QSR category. If you think of the burger segment, right, there's a million burger chains. But if you look at the chicken concept, it's basically KFC have been, dominant in the market for many, many years. And there's a huge gap against the next competitors, right? So not only we have Nene, we have BBQ, 3,500 units. Challengers to the market. I know that Alan is in the room, Wingstop from the US. Our client, well done, Alan. So really brands starting to challenge that KFC dominance. And there's a huge potential for growth for all of these concepts. We're also seeing that from a guest experience and design, these brands are pushing the market upwards. This is Dicos, KFC's competitor in China, 3,000 stores. This is the latest design. So the whole industry is moving upwards in terms of design, guest experience, usage of technology. So what I would encourage you is to not only look at what the US is doing and how they're doing it, which has been the traditional approach, but also look the other way and see how other players are doing it. QSR moves upward. This is our latest design for Carl's Jr. I think this is a store in Japan. We do all over the world. But brands are, specifically when we compare US domestic business with US international business, all the brands are pushing upwards in terms of guest experience. We tell our US customers, you cannot take a concept or a design from the US and try to make it work in Europe or make it work in the Middle East, because the expectations are higher. The homegrown brands, we were talking before we read about homegrown brands, they are pushing upwards and they're doing things really, really well. So we as brands need to push upwards, and it's in all segments. This is our latest concept design for Freebirds, which is a sort of Chipotle concept out of Texas. This is the freestanding unit. Everyone is pushing for a better guest experience because something needs to happen for our clients to leave their sofa or their couch and their Netflix to go out. And that is experience. I always say that nowadays you can either play on the convenience or on the experience side. You cannot be on both. So you can really be fast where you are at price point, etc. But if you play on the experience side, really make sure that your assets resonate. This is a fast casual concept. This is our own brand in Gothenburg. We actually took a Starbucks and converted it into a modern Italian fast casual. But this is the sort of elevated experiential dining. Whether you pay, $15, doesn't matter. Consumers expect more to get out of their homes. Another good example is Big Mama Group. Big Mama Group, two guys out of France. They created an Italian concept and really played on design. Big Mama have only 23 restaurants, 23 units, and just been sold to McWin for $330 million, and not only 100% of the shares, so half of it. So you can imagine the valuation of these companies just playing on customer experience. Design is the driver. This is a concept where the most expensive dish on the menu is the Josper grilled sea bass for 23 euros. So it's still very affordable, very value driven, but that does not mean that you cannot play on design and experience. Another trend we're seeing is efficiencies. We all know the headwinds on the industry, everything from real estate costs to inflation, etc. This is a prototype we're now rolling out at the GCC where we're combining two different brands, IHOP and Applebee's, just to double down on day parts. So you have, one brand on one side, one brand on the other, and then a neutral side in the middle. And this is not the only concept. Dodo that's been here today, they are now co-branding with their coffee brand at the same time. So, when you don't eat coffee, drink coffee, you can have pizza and vice versa. And we've even taken that to the next level. So as you know, in the US, there's a lot of big box, 5,000, 6,000 square feet, 500, 600 square meter casual dining restaurants that are dying out. What do we do with these assets? So this is an interesting concept. We did this in Southern California, where basically we created one single kitchen, one single package of restrooms, but 6 different brands. So from a guest experience, you have all these different brands with their own individual design, their music, their touch points, everything. But from an operational perspective, it's only one kitchen. So you reduce labor, create efficiencies, and really can scale, even utilizing existing second-gen spaces. So we're also seeing competition, new competition coming into the market. Luxury, this is, Tiffany's, Louis Vuitton, Burberry's, creating F&B brands. So we also have to look at new competitors coming into the market. And this is one of the latest creations. I'm sure you're familiar with this brand. It has 600 million followers. So we've now created a restaurant brand for Real Madrid that we're starting to roll out globally. We just opened the first unit in Mexico City. We're going to open 250 of these stores. So what I wanted to share is that we are not only looking at the traditional brands in terms of the US, etc., the traditional operators as our competitors, but also, new brands entering the market from all sides, whether that's retail or soccer or football, wherever that is, right? And I want to round up with technology. There's been an extensive amount of talks about technology. This is the toolbox that we have. It's only getting more and more complex. It's almost hard to navigate the amount of new things that happen. We open 1,000 restaurants a year and we still don't manage to test anything and everything. But there's a few things that I wanted to share and hopefully learnings that you can take to your operations. First is LLMs, right? The chat GPTs of the world. They're everywhere. They're going to impact every single measure of the restaurant. One of the things we're looking now is food listening. So we can actually monitor what people are talking about and in real time scan thousands and thousands of restaurants to understand menu penetration. So we can in real time take a region and know what are the cauliflower penetration over time. I just took these snapshots before the conference. So we can actually see how are they combined. They combine with eggplant, with grits, with turkey. In what menu penetration, how many restaurants, what is the menu growth, what is the average price, and even the images. We could never have done this without AI. We can now know what is the growth in truffles by cuisine and learn that ice cream truffle is raised by 1.39%. So the amount of information we can now have, even knowing in which states, truffle is growing more in a category, is humongous. And AI is really helping us with that. The other thing is AI-driven recipes. We were talking before, I think it was George mentioning, SKUs. We can now put all our SKUs into the system and AI can create new recipes based on the SKUs we have without needing to add more ingredients and therefore simplifying the operations. We have databases of 230,000 recipes that this information can be drawn from. This technology is also advanced in terms of molecular beverage printers. So now we can identify the molecules that give flavor to beverages. So one machine can create hundreds of different beverages. And these are now systems that we're rolling out into beverage platform concepts. The other is the real implementation of robotics. Now we have central kitchens that can actually produce 15,000 dishes a day with 15,000 individual recipes. So we can store your preferences about space, flavor, etc. And every time you order, we can really match your preferences, regardless of whatever restaurant you are in that system. Even if the system has 1,000 restaurants, we can track and monitor your preferences and serve that dish directly to you. We're also implementing now robotics into existing kitchens. So you don't have to redo your whole kitchen and spend the whole capex. We have now, robotic chefs that can go into existing kitchens and mimic human operations. And the beauty of robots is that they replicate to perfection. It takes 48 hours to learn. We put a chef and then we put the robot, and in 48 hours, the robot does exactly things as a chef. And the beauty is that the chef then goes to sleep and the robot works 24 hours and gets it perfect right every time. I'm going to round up with some of the usage of AI in terms of computer vision. We're now utilizing the CCTV cameras that you already have in your restaurants to understand heat mapping and know where do people want to sit, where do they don't want to sit, do they want large seats, do you want 2 tops, 4 tops? So creating more efficiencies in the restaurant and also learning, we've done 15,000 restaurants. When we take all this information and put it into the system, we can really understand how to lay out restaurants more efficiently for guest experience. We can now measure and track in real time how long time a car has been in the drive-through, why are they leaving, what is the threshold for guests leaving, and then we can actually alert the restaurant and say, hey, you should send somebody outside to start taking up orders because otherwise you're going to lose revenue. And, same goes for efficiency and accuracy. Now we can use the cameras to understand, are the dishes ready? What are the quality levels? And then monitor across systems. The last thing is guest recognition. It's advanced so much that we can now detect your name even with a helmet on, just by looking at your eyes, which is very important when you have face masks. We now know it when we open our iPhone, it detects us with the face mask. But this allows us to know who you are, what is your flavor, what are your preferences, and market directly to you the products that we want. So this is just the beginning. I just wanted to share some of these examples with you, because not only we know who you are, what your need state is, what is your emotions. This is going to advance and advance. Keep in mind that ChatGPT launched less than a year ago. So I want to round up, because I know time is up, but I don't want to leave without giving you a gift. If you scan this QR code, we've created a prompt guideline for restaurateurs. So here you will have 40 real-life examples of how you can use LLMs or ChatGPT to impact on your restaurant operations. And with that, time's up. So I want to thank you for your time. I'll be around in the afternoon if you have further questions. Thank you very much.